So what I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about in the next 15 minutes is two case examples, as was mentioned, that we've been involved with, one in Australia, and that's in the past, and one that we are currently engaged with at the moment. And I also want to, as part of this, talk to you a little bit about a framework that we believe is relevant for looking at regional entrepreneurship. But first up, what is entrepreneurship? There are many definitions of entrepreneurship, hundreds of them, but I love this particular one, developed back in 1983 by a gentleman by the name of Howard Stevenson. And he says, entrepreneurship is the process. It's the process of creating or seizing an opportunity without regard to the resources that you currently own or control. And I love this because it says nothing about the money. It says nothing about money. And people get so fixated on setting up businesses or not setting up a business because they don't believe they have the necessary resources to be able to do so. And what Howard is saying here is that forget that. That's stinking thinking. You've got to focus on the quality of the opportunity. And as an ex-venture capitalist, I know the two most important things in any investment, in any deal, is the quality of the opportunity and the quality of the people behind that deal. And so why is entrepreneurship important? And I know I'm talking to the converted here, but things like economic development, social impact, small entrepreneurial businesses are definitely relevant in terms of generating innovation. It doesn't necessarily come from the big organisations. And you know, those corporations, those startup businesses that are more entrepreneurial than others tend to outperform others. And so, as a result of that, we have multiplier effects in economies, people, employment generation, and money being spent. So what am I talking about just very simply when I mean an entrepreneurial business? Well, here's an example of, if you like, I've tried to, in the time I've got, to demonstrate what would a successful business look like. Well, on this particular graph I've got up here, I've got on the left-hand side, the vertical axis, I've got positive net cash flow and negative cash flow. And then down the bottom, the horizontal axis, I've got time. So here we've got an example of a business, an entrepreneur who started up with an idea at one stage, time zero, and then they invested some money in it, so they started money started going out. Eventually they started doing well and the growth actually started to increase. And many businesses look like this. But the entrepreneurial businesses are the ones that regions need to attract. And so we need to have businesses that have a profile that look more like this, because they've got a steeper growth curve there. They're capable of generating more employment than this sort of business here. And so we haven't got the time to go into the characteristics of these sorts of businesses, but these are what, and these sorts of businesses, unfortunately, they're not everywhere. Probably less than 10% of businesses abound that have a profile like this. But these are the sorts of businesses regions should be trying to attract, as well as the others as well, of course. Now, in terms of thinking about entrepreneurship at a regional level, there's a very simple diagram here. It may look very complex, but the three most important things are the three round circles there. When I'm thinking about entrepreneurship, whether as an investor, at an individual level, or as looking at it from a regional point of view, this is how I think. What are the opportunities that lie out there? How good are the people, the entrepreneurial teams? How entrepreneurial are they? How relevant are the resources there to actually flow in there so those opportunities can be developed? And all this doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists within an environment, some sort of ecosystem here. And so what I'm also asking myself when I'm looking at situations is, what's the quality of that ecosystem? I'd like to talk to you perhaps about two case examples, as I mentioned earlier, just to sort of, which fit within this type of framework here. The first one, I just want to focus on what I call the internal factors here, the opportunity, the team, and the resources. Opportunities abound, they're everywhere, but very few people can see them. At our school level, we're taught about problem solving. I've never yet come across a course on opportunity recognition. there and how to identify opportunities. Yet, opportunities are always found, always, in adversity and problems that people face. So when you're trying to set up businesses in a region, you don't want me too same old type businesses being set up there. You want businesses that are differentiated and that are looking to solve people's problems there in some sort of way. In terms of the team perspective, yes, you can teach entrepreneurship to people. Many people still disbelieve this, but there's been studies done which demonstrate that successfully you can actually teach someone how to be more entrepreneurial. Of course, whether someone wants to embrace those sorts of skills or not is another factor, but there is evidence to suggest you can teach entrepreneurship to people. And similarly, as part of that, from the resourcing point of view, teaching people how to be resourceful, to do more with less, to think about OPR, using other people's resources wherever you possibly can to actually leverage up your business. And so, let me talk to you first up about a case study that I was involved with in Innisfail. At this stage, the sugar prices had collapsed, and it wasn't worth the sugarcane farmers actually harvesting their crops. We were invited to participate, a couple of universities, one from Melbourne, and at the time I was at the University of Queensland. We looked at the town, worked with the town and the surrounding areas as a whole, where we invited people who were interested to engage in an entrepreneurship program, teaching them about what is entrepreneurship. How do you grow a business from this to a growth curve like that? And coming up with not Me Too type businesses, but looking for opportunities that would actually be relevant to the region. And so the town, we put the town through and the surrounding areas through, and we had hundreds of people there. It was quite interesting, the logistics of actually facilitating this and trying to find venues to be able to do this. But we, people who were interested, engaged in the training. They then split up, so we wanted buy-in. We didn't want to be the locals knew more about what was relevant for the town, not us as the academics there. So a steering committee was formed, relevant entrepreneurial teams were identified and formed, and they looked around for business opportunities for the region. And through that, they developed up through an ongoing facilitated process over a period of 18 months. They shortlisted potential opportunities. They developed up business plans for those. These were presented to investment committees, all comprised of the key people in the town, and select businesses were actually identified and invested in. It wasn't to say that if you had a business that wasn't identified that you couldn't actually engage, couldn't set that business up. It's just that these other businesses got greater support. So the types of businesses that actually came out of this process, I've got listed there. Some of the farmers went into ecotourism. A tea plantation was set up. Some went into exotic fruits. Others went into crocodile farming and the like. And so the process, what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that you need to focus on here the opportunity and the team and providing the relevant resources here to actually facilitate entrepreneurship in regions there. If we have a look at I've said very little about ecosystems, environmental ecosystems, and the type of ecosystems that's relevant in one region versus another will differ. But there'll be some key areas that obviously will be relevant to all. And I've just provided some examples here. Some of the key players, some of the key stakeholders. Obviously, local, state and federal government may have an interest here. A region may actually want to think about setting up a business incubator, an accelerator program, entrepreneurship programs, involving universities, TAFE, schools, high schools, for the longer term. If you want to, it's one thing talking about entrepreneurship now, but if you want to engender an entrepreneurial culture, then you've got to actually look at the younger people coming through and teaching them how to be more entrepreneurial as well. You want not only the focusing on the local startups there, but you also want to try to engender a culture throughout the town, focusing on the professional firms. How can they become more entrepreneurial there as well, and the community generally. So to just exemplify this, a project that we're currently working on. We just, my colleague Gary Hancock and myself just came back from Paris on Sunday night. We've been working in France all last week on a regional entrepreneurship project there. And this is in the town of Châlons-en-Champagne, in the Champagne district, just an hour outside of Paris. Why are we involved there? We were approached by the town, the region, the Champagne region, there because they were facing some economic difficulties here. They had an artillery regiment set up in Napoleon's time, which was decommissioned by the French government because of budgetary problems. And that's resulted in around about 1,800 jobs being lost there. So all that spending power gone now. So at the core of our project there is that working with the council and the region and the prefecture there, we're setting up an incubator, accelerator program there in the heart of the city. And this incubator is part of a larger network of incubators that we're setting up. The tenets of this incubator will be as follows. Certainly local businesses, local startup businesses. But we're also interested in existing businesses there as well, trying to actually help them grow. In addition to that, we're taking South Australian businesses who are interested in co-locating in France to use that as a launch pad. We're facilitating their startup there, and we're bringing French businesses who are interested in co-locating in Adelaide and surrounding regions to here. There's a lot of synergy between the Champagne region and parts of South Australia here from an agri-business point of view. And in addition to that, we have student internships, students in Adelaide who are interested in getting their hands dirty, not just learning about entrepreneurship, but actually doing entrepreneurship and start-up businesses there, as well as facilitating research commercialisation of research innovations for our students and staff, setting up businesses there as well. And so that, with local mentoring, coupled with mentoring from Australia, we've actually got a system mapped out where Australian mentors will be travelling there, living there for parts of the time, but also using technology. Plus, we have anchor tenants there, Orange, big telco there to actually help with some of the funding for some of the ventures, as well as providing mentoring there. Stage 2 involves setting up a fab lab, a technology innovation centre there, use of advanced 3D printers and lasers and the like, and that happens in the second year. So this is an example of regional entrepreneurship happening right at the moment, and we're in the middle of doing all this at present. So I just want to finish up here on this point. So going back to where we started, if I go back to our framework here, when I'm thinking of regional entrepreneurship, I think about the quality of the opportunities that exist in the region. How entrepreneurial are the people there, and how can we develop them up, the sorts of resources that are available there, and the quality of the entrepreneurial ecosystem and how that can be developed or enhanced.